Getting Over It is a game that's frequently described as infuriating or rage-inducing, but I feel the opposite way. I think that as an experience, the game is quite meditative. Getting Over It isn't just a big way for gamers to flex their skill, but instead provides an irreplaceable experience that covers the nature of games and the drive to rise above. You're a man in a pod climbing a mountain with a hammer, but somehow it communicates an incredible and visceral level of emotion. There isn't a feeling more intense than starting over. Getting Over It is a unique game because no amount of forward progress is completely assured. No matter how good you do, there is no checkpoint or guarantee that you're safe. This lends itself to the difficulty of the game, the unrelenting and unforgiving challenges of these whimsical and nonsensical set pieces. No matter where or how far you came from, it's still very easy to end up at the bottom where you started. Getting Over It isn't a game about the climb itself, but the process of coming back after you fall. It's about the lull of progress you experience, the stumbling block of falling. No matter how many times you fail, starting over is harder than starting up. This makes you feel connected with the mountain as one giant object. Where you fall and climb up on the mountain doesn't feel like it matters. Imaginary mountains build themselves from the effort to climb them. Through failure and struggle, they become real. This rough assemblage of found items becomes more than a jumble of random assets, and instead feels like one big asset. You become intimately familiar with these places and become gradually more comfortable conquering them again and again. The process of starting over is always hard, but once you start rolling, you'll find this area that stumped you before has become slightly easier each time you repeat it. It's through this repetition, despite being a challenging and relentlessly unforgiving experience, that it becomes meditative. As I was failing time and time again, I realized that whenever I did, if I applied myself, I could return to where I fell each time slightly easier than the last. In my own experience with the game, I found this quite freeing. Knowing I was inevitably going to fall and lose progress, I reached a headspace that allowed me to feel muted in these moments of frustration. I reached a state of tranquility and stillness that allowed me to power through and endure any punishment the game handed me. It didn't feel underhanded or cheap, but rather, Getting Over It presented me with a challenge and played it straight. Whether I decided to quit and leave or try to continue was up to me. There wasn't a moment where I called bullshit or got overly angry because I knew this was something I would inevitably conquer. It gave me the power to self-reflect and try to grow better at the game. There isn't any progression up this mountain, only progression in yourself. That feeling and realization makes you proud of how far you've come and what you've overcame to get there. I had grown, not in my ability as a player, but in my own patience as a human being. I no longer feared falling, but had grown afraid of this experience coming to an end. The experience of falling is rough. Falling and losing the progress you worked so hard to achieve is undeniably painful, but for me, I found solace in the lonely and sad moments. When you climb, the narrator gives you lines when you reach certain milestones, meaning if you're stuck, the game is quite silent. It's yourself, your hammer, and the landfill of a mountain ahead of you. When the narrator does chime in to speak on your progress, or read a quote, the moment feels surreal. The narrator doesn't just congratulate you and accompany you when you win, but he also comments when you fail. He's there with you every step of the way. In these moments of sorrow that feel like nothing but a waste of time, this dialogue and music grant you the gift of another person. Some may hate Fadi's comments as they may feel intrusive or annoying, but I feel that these moments with Fadi make the game for me. Juxtaposed with the cold and barren environment that you struggle to fumble your way through, the monologue is so strong that it's almost worth it to fall just to hear more of it. Throughout this video, I've been lying. I refer to the name of the game as Getting Over It, but that leaves out the subtitle with Bennett Fadi. He's just as integral to the game as Diogenes. Despite the lonesome and somber experience of this silence, you have a friend to guide you along. The game has a backing track for this long monologue as well. It's not particularly special, in fact, by most jazz standards I think it's quite bland, but through my experiences with the game it becomes much more. It's nothing incredible, but through the gentleness and simplicity of it, it becomes completely non-offensive. It's perfect for a moment of weakness. I quickly grew so attached to Fadi's voice and the soft piano that whenever I reached a new milestone or triggered dialogue in some way, I was given new energy and a gentle pat on the back that I was capable of carrying on. Fadi's narration about game design, your role as a player, or other thoughts on the nature of this amalgamation of trash the game is made up of, created a really special experience. His narration gives that one little bit that makes me keep on and made me feel deeply connected to him by the end. I came to fall in love and was soothed by every aspect of this infuriating game. The physics of the game's hammer are quite precarious. As a form of locomotion, it's awkward to use. It rarely does what you truly want it to do. It never truly gets you where you want to go. But the momentum you carry by swinging and hooking makes it a satisfying and compelling experience nonetheless. It's not something you can put your faith in, but somehow becomes a tool you grow to trust and a form of movement that you grow competent in. The high skill ceiling of the hammer makes it satisfying to move in ways you didn't know you could. Even though throughout the game you only use 2 basic maneuvers, it's more complex than you can describe. No amount of studying other people's footage will make you less fiddly with the controls. It's a movement scheme that over time you get a feel for. You can't describe why you feel better at them, but you grow more confident and more precise in your flicks of the mouse. It's a very intuitive system that lacks complexity on paper, but because of how open-ended it is, the motion of a hammer becomes one of the most complicated things in the entire game. Unless you play the game to its conclusion, there isn't really much satisfaction or an endpoint. That's not to say that you can't have fun before deciding to quit early, but it's a game that's extremely easy to drop. There isn't some nagging urge to finish it or some dire goal. In this way, the difficulty doesn't seem superficial. It's not about proving yourself and getting to that big goal at the end, but instead about the journey it takes you on. There are small bursts of satisfaction here and there when you get over something hard, but there's no huge checkpoint or huge milestone. This is a game that doesn't demand that much from you, and because of that, it feels real. There's no fanfare or over-celebration, but just a man in a pot. His name is Diogenes, based on the philosopher that chose to live in a minimalist lifestyle, living out of a pot and only relying on nature to survive. In a way, this game feels the same. He's overcoming the piles of junk and rising to the top in a very simple way. No climbing gear, but just a hammer and a cauldron. Despite my description of a calming game, which I still think to be true, I have gotten mad at it. On repeat playthroughs, my main goal has been speed, trying to go as fast as I can to reach space. Whenever I did this, I was easily frustrated at the game. My goal when playing wasn't to grow and have an entertaining time, but only the result of doing it. In this context, I found myself succumbing to the common emotion of rage. I think that this goes to show that a small shift in your mindset can completely change your experience with the game. The repeat playthroughs did bolster some of the feelings I had though. When playing through it multiple times, I became even more attached to the map. This landfill of junk became comfortable and lovely. To end this video off with a note, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy is a game that seems nonsensical and overly difficult for no purpose, but it truly means a lot, and it is one of the simplest and best games that I've ever played. I hope that you're having a good day, and goodbye.